friends have never been more important than they are today. Everywhere you turn, there seems to be reasons to give up or not even try at all. We want to be the light in these times and an inspiration for others to keep pushing forward. My journey of growth comes through humility, and I welcome all who are looking to grow with me. Thanks for tuning in to the Crew First Culture Podcast. Hello, everybody. Welcome back once again. Thank you so much for spending some time with me today. Another great day that I've been looking forward to for quite a while. Got some good guests that I know will give me a lot of takeaways that I've really been looking for. And so without any further, got the Build Your Culture boys with me today, Sean Duffy and Pablo. Now, let me say, is it Jenner?
Yep, absolutely.
Okay, perfect. So Pablo Jenner and Sean Duffy. So how are you guys doing today?
I'm doing good, buddy. Just enjoying that day off that they give us every couple weeks. So can't complain.
Yeah, you're on your Kelly.
Yeah,
Good,
yeah.
Good for you, buddy. I just got off shift this morning. Luckily, we had a decent night, so nice and refreshed. Cup of coffee, I'm good to go.
I just got home as well, so I think we're all kind of on the same board. So Sean, I've had on before, and if you haven't listened to that episode, you need to go back and do yourself a favor and get into that one. I really enjoyed that conversation. A lot of culture talk and everything to do with that. Pablo, I just met, and so really looking forward to kind of getting into some search stuff. I talked to them for just a few minutes before we push record, and I don't know what it is. I've just really felt pulled in the direction of digging into search here lately. Search, VES, Beyond the Door, all that type of stuff, and I just feel the need for my crew to be good at it. Like I told them, I don't know if it's just something coming and we need to get ready for it or what, but I just really have enjoyed digging into that here lately. And so that's kind of an area that they like to, or it seems like to me, they like to really focus on. And so we will definitely hit on that. But go ahead, guys, give whatever, long, short bio you want to. I know, Sean, you've kind of done it before, but if you want to hit it on again for anybody that missed that one, then go ahead.
Sure. So again, name's Sean Duffy. I work for the city of Venice here in Southwest Florida. Been a firefighter for 15 years now. And 2019, Pablo and I decided to found Build Your Culture. And it's really encompassing just all things culture in the fire service. There's that old adage, leave it better than you found it. And firefighters, we have this terrible habit of getting together and just kind of complaining about everything and not really finding any solutions. So we decided to try and make a way to where we can offer some solutions based off of our experiences and give some guidance in the direction that we feel the fire service should be heading. And ultimately, it's up to you, right? Nobody's going to hold your hand. Nobody can make those decisions for you. So whether it's searching on the fire ground or behavior inside the firehouse, it's about mindset. And the one that you choose to have is definitely going to affect your outcome. So that's really all it is for me on that end. Is I've been a student of the craft. I'll continue to be a student of the craft. And all I want for myself and my brothers and sisters in the fire service is to continually better ourselves every day. So on that, I'll leave it over to Pablo and let him introduce himself.
So Pablo Jenner. I work for Marion County, Florida. It's north central Florida. We're just shy of Gainesville, about 40 minutes south of Gainesville, about an hour and 10 minutes north of Orlando. Like Sean said, Sean and I have an interesting relationship because when we first met each other, we kind of joked around like the old Step Brothers movie, like, did we just become best friends, with the high five, and because we had never really met obviously we know a lot of people throughout the service, and we're blessed enough to know a lot of people. But for whatever reason, we hit it off in the sense that we had the same interests. We enjoyed the job. We enjoyed buffing the job. We enjoyed everything about it. We thought the job, we never the little kid in us never left us. We still enjoy it. I still enjoy looking at a fire truck, but at the same time, we were both very professional. Like you see eye to eye and how professional you have to be. You can still have the little kid in you, but you can see eye to eye how professional you have to be. So when then we started talking about how there are some things that could be changed or it could be better, and we had something in common in the sense that we have a good amount, and we're pretty blessed to always seek out busy battalions or busy districts, and we've been blessed in not only having a love for the job, but being able to see a fair amount of work. I don't even know what the hell a lot of work is, but we've been blessed to see a fair amount of work. So once we started talking and just tapping into each other's brains, we're like, man, I have a similar view on that. And oh man, I have a good experience on that too. And yeah, shit, I did that too. And oh fuck, man, maybe we should get together and kind of share some of this passion and knowledge that for whatever reason seems to be well within both of us. So and I'm pretty lucky, man, to be able to work with Sean. I mean, he takes the reins on a lot of this stuff, and man, it's been going pretty well. And anyway, so that's my little spiel.
Everything you guys are saying, especially you, Pablo, kind of explaining that, that whole relationship with Sean, and I've said it over and over again, but that's why I'm sitting here right now, man. I am not the kind of person to be doing a podcast, but once I got into it and once I started meeting people like you guys and started networking out and just getting to know other people that are struggling with the same stuff that I and my department are struggling with, and hearing their stories and hearing how, some of them made it through and how some of them are just starting to fight it. And it just, God, it helps so much to just keep going, really keep going, keep the passion, keep fired up. And I mean, I love it. I love it so much just to have these conversations. And I've told people before, I do it selfishly because I enjoy it so much. I get so much out of it. And then I'm just happy to share what I enjoy with others. I don't feel like I'm really a host or anything. I just want to have conversations that I learn from and build relationships through. And so lucky enough to have a platform that allows that. So I appreciate so much you guys coming on and spending some time with me today, because that's exactly why we're all here. And so that's awesome. So like I talked about, and this conversation definitely doesn't have to remain focused on search. Like Sean said, they built, or you guys built your platform around culture as well. And also, obviously that's part of the name that I represent as well. And so if we want to get into some culture, Sean knows I can talk culture all day, but like I said,
it's the single hardest thing to define, buddy. It's the single hardest thing to define culture. And that's a rhetorical question. I'm saying that knowing that I'm shooting that to both of you, like, because I don't know how to define culture. So if either one of you two could define it for me, man, that's the topic of conversation right there.
I get it. It's hard to find, and it's even harder to achieve, I would say. So I'm right there with you. But search. So I think search is such a area that it's almost like the nozzle conflict and the nozzle argument. Smooth bore and fog stream and all of these different arguments that you get into. Well, there are a lot of sticky areas with search. You got searching off a line. You have VES, which just the task of VES can throw some people just overboard of how they feel so strongly opposed to it, or And if you want to get into an even bigger fight, start bringing up the topic of VES beyond the door, and then you're really in for it. So, and I know I'm throwing out a gigantically broad statement out here, but just kind of give us some thoughts on where fire service is right now with the culture of search, and just kind of we'll just kind of get into it from there, because I feel like we need to get a lot better. And so just either one of you, wherever you want to start, we'll just get going and see where it takes us.
Yeah, I'll kick that off for you, Jeremy. My biggest thing with search, we've all been on fire ground, and we've all probably had less than desirable tasks given to us, because we all want to be in there and doing the stuff. But the benefit to maybe not always being in the action is that you get to step back and evaluate what's going on, and that's how some learning takes place. So for me, over time, I kept asking myself the questions of, why are we not in there searching? Why is this taking so long? And when I went through the fire academy, and even for many of the places that I was fortunate enough to work for, search was something that should have been right there in the forefront of everyone's mind. Life safety is our number one priority, always has been, always will be. And here we are just waiting to do things. And I really blame that on the safety culture, honestly, that kind of found its way into the fire service. And by no means am I saying that we should be reckless, but
Yeah.
I do think that people are thinking of security instead of opportunity. And when we show up on the fire ground, it's like pit bulls on a leash. You better be
Yeah.
holding me back, because my main objective is to get inside that house or to get inside that building, whether it be for fire attack or for search, right? Because we have two main questions we can ask ourselves immediately. What is of greater benefit for me? To remove the environment from the victim, i.e. fire attack, something like that, right? Or to remove the victim from the environment? Those are the two questions you have to answer immediately. And that's going to guide you into what do you have to do? What tactic are you going to choose? Is this going to be your, traditional primary search, or is this going to be your VES, or whatever it is that you choose to do? There's a lot going on that you need to figure out, and you have a short amount of time to do it. And I think that overwhelms people. So because they are so overwhelmed with everything going on, and maybe they don't know the limitations of their staff or their training levels or whatever the case is, they choose to put search further down on that checklist of things to get done until they feel it's safe enough to do so. And that's where I feel we've adapted the kind of me first mentality of, well, I'm going home, right? My guys are going home. And that's what we all want, but we can't be using that as an excuse of why we choose not to do something.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more with that, man. And to answer your question, I think directly, as far as like where we're at with culture across the country or whatever, I get a sense of we're either ultra aggressive, borderlining reckless, to we're completely passive, borderlining we're not doing our job. So what are we doing when we teach, or not us like Sean and I, but like when the fire service in general teaches stay on the wall, hug the wall, or stay in contact with each other? What are we really portraying there? Are we searching the building for victims, or are we just getting in there to basically say that we searched
Checking the
it?
box.
So, literally checking a box. And are like the type of search that you're doing when you're doing that type of search, are you how are you searching for your own safety? What I mean by that is, as soon as you get into that low vis environment, like you're out into that open ocean, and you're scared shitless. You're like, oh shit, this is all I know. So stay on the wall, find a window. And all you're doing is just sitting there next to a window or next to a wall, going like this up and down on the wall. like there's no way in hell you're going to tell me that you're searching for a body. You're searching for a way to keep yourself safe, as opposed to understanding the building that you're going into, understanding your tactics, your fire conditions, understanding how to split search and still be within communication of each other, understanding how to leave that orient man at a doorway and monitor conditions. So it's like the safer that we want to keep ourselves, quote unquote, I believe that's we're doing a disservice to the people that we serve across the country, because we're searching for, I'm searching for my own safety as opposed to actually searching for someone else. And I do have a strong belief that the more you understand how to search, the safer it will be, as opposed to, well, now you don't understand how to search. Now you are running the risk of getting lost, and you're still not searching for the victim properly. You're stuck on a wall. That's just come from fear mongering, so we're either ultra aggressive or we are completely passive. That's my take on searching across the country. And whoever takes our class or whoever listens to us just talk a little passion and knowledge, just regurgitate information that we've learned over the years, they'll know. Sean and I don't think, and Sean, you could agree or disagree on this one, your take on it. We're not ultra aggressive. I don't consider myself ultra aggressive. I consider myself a tactician, depending on what the building is telling me and depending on my level of expertise going into that particular situation, depending on my partner, how well he does under certain conditions is depending. It's all situational dependent. Every single fire to me will literally be different. Every single search will literally be different. So I don't consider myself ultra aggressive. I consider myself a tactician, and based on the tactics that are presented to me is depending on how I'm in search.
Putting it in a little bit different terms, a term that our crew uses, basically competency-based safety. You are the safest when you are competent at whatever task you're doing. And that's, I don't think you can break it down any easier or any simpler than that. I mean, you can put all the policies you want in place. If you don't know what you're doing, you're not going to be safe. If you know what you're doing, if you've done it to the point where it's muscle memory, you're basically just, your body is doing what it needs to do to free up your mind to do what it needs to do, you're not going to get any safer than that. And so that's, I totally believe, and that's a great point. The whole searching basically to keep yourself safe, as opposed to searching with a purpose, searching with a sense of urgency, with a purpose is big to me. I think that's something that you really, if that's what you're working on, you need to be focusing on that. You need to be doing it because there is a purpose behind it, not just because, like you said, a box of check. And, I think part of the problem is a lot of people aren't taught, they are taught the whole hands and knees crawling around on a wall. You got the elephant trail behind you, that somebody's on your foot. And if that's what you were taught, then okay, what else are you supposed to do? But there's so much information out there, so many good, videos and podcasts and whatever you want to listen to learn about that, man. That's got to be an area that we do get better at, for sure.
And real quick, we do a really, really good job in the fire service of creating training scars. You said, searching on your hands and knees and right hand search pattern, man, that works fantastic in a Conex box that is 10 by 30. I mean, that's a fantastic way to search in that thing. But what happens when you get in a house? You have furniture, and so we fail. We're creating a training scar of searching empty spaces first and foremost, and then we're creating a training scar of not understanding just basic house designs. Like, we're getting to a point that we literally will tell it doesn't matter, a younger member or an older member, like, hey man, how big is your basic room? Like, what's your basic layout? I'm not talking about a McMansion. I'm just talking about your basic layout of your room. Like, like a basic 3-2 split level, 1,200 square foot house. And, like, I don't know, like, you got to understand the dimensions, like, is it a 10 by 10 room? Is it a master bedroom, a 12 by 14, 11 by 13? Like, they don't understand what they're searching. To take a page from Chief Dodson and the Art of Reading Smoke, like, we fight fires in boxes, and we have to cool the environment, to cool the box, so to speak, as he says, right directly from a quote from his. Well, I take that quote and put it into what we do. We search boxes, like, we just have to figure out which box we go to at a time, and just search one box at a time, whether it be a rectangular, whether it be an actual box, whether it be a hallway. We're searching boxes. Eliminate one box at a time, and as you move on to the next one, isolate behind you. Just like the hose line cools the environment, but we could shut off the environment by isolating behind you. So we just do such a great job in, and I mean that sarcastically, in just creating training scars over and over again, because we do not train in real world environments. And that includes, well, once again, I'm going to take this one from Isaac Frazier up in Wichita, in junkyard cuts. We will go years at a time without actually putting tools on a mangled car, because every single time you go to training, it's just like this, a donated 1994 Honda Civic that has like no body damage. It's just junk because it has 400,000 miles on it. Well, all of a sudden, you wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning, the tones go off, and the fucking car is wrapped 7 ways from Sunday around the tree, and you're like, holy shit, where the hell do I put the tool at? Oh, that's because you've never actually, like, forget real world experience, forget about that. But why don't you just go to the junkyard and ask the front end loader to just, crush this fucking thing or turn it upside down? We don't do that. We do ourselves the service by creating these training scars. Firemen, I've noticed across the country, from fucking New York all the way to Key West, are really good at buying and selling bullshit. We sell bullshit to each other, and we buy it also, and so we just create these training scars over and over and over again. So anyway.
Yeah, no, that's a good point there. So I think it really all boils down to having to understand things, right? So some of the things that we have to understand is, first off, are we actually doing the research needed, right, to realize how effective we are, or maybe how ineffective we are, right? So if we look, anybody can pop online every day and see the number of civilian fire deaths, right? So this morning when I looked, it was 1,620. All right, that's roughly 5 per day. So the excuse of, well, we don't go to fires that much anymore, or the likelihood of finding people inside of fires, it's just not that high. When you have that mindset, it just slows you down on everything. And what I feel we really need to be focused on is not only the statistics and the numbers, but our contributing factors that we ourselves have, right? Trying to just kind of like call the audible and figure it out on scene is not going to work. And what I mean by contributing factors is ability, right? So you have ability, time, and knowledge. So when you talk about ability, we have to understand, like, what can you accomplish with the staffing levels you have? And what is your staffing, what is their level of experience, and what is their level of fitness, right? Because you can't ask somebody to do something if they're not mentally and physically fit enough to do it, or you can't expect them to do it well if they don't have the experience behind them to know what they're doing. The second thing that we look at is time, right? There's a 911 call. I have a structure fire at this address, all right? So you have the initial 911 time, you have the dispatch time, right? So you have your response time, and all of that plays into what? Time, right? And it doesn't belong to us. So the longer we take to get an action, the worse the outcome is. So once you're on scene and you're gathering your information, how long does it take you to formulate a plan and put that plan into action, right? Mask up times, throwing ladders, stretching line, doing 360, all that stuff takes time. And the longer we spend trying to formulate all these plans, they're inside burning, right? It's the UL study comes out, right? And we read what? Exposure duration is as important as dose, right? So the time that they're in there is just as important, if not more, than the amount of stuff that they're being exposed to, right? So
Mhm.
you can have a small amount of toxic material that'll kill you very quickly, or you may not have a large amount, but the time frame that you're allowed to stay in that environment is what is going to kill you.
Yeah.
So then we come back to knowledge, right? Being our last one. Do you truly understand what it is that you're doing? Do you understand what's being asked of you? Um, have you learned from your past fires? And are you even up to date on current or best practices? And if the answer to that is no, or any of these questions that we've just talked about, if you really don't know, then you need to find out, because those are very simple things that we're expected to have the answers for when we show up on scene. And when we're talking about identifying searchable space, that's that's crucial. I mean, we've got to know immediately where we can get in to make the greatest good. So if you're not understanding like what time of day most of our victims are being found or what room they're in, how are you expected to target search? So what we
Yeah.
tend to do is we tend to show up and go through the front door and dump 3 or 4 people through there and start from there all the way to the fire that's in the back of the house, when we
Yeah.
could have identified our searchable space and went straight to that spot immediately. And we talked a little about VS earlier. We lose our minds when we put 2 people through a window. It's like a cardinal sin, like, oh my God, what are you doing? This is so dangerous. But we never once hesitate to put 3, 4, 5, maybe 6 people through a front door to do the same exact thing.
Mhm.
Right. So, I think it's really about gathering all that information, understanding where you can do the greatest good. What is it about your assessment of that space that guides you to do your first things in that area?
I on my notes right here is exactly what you just said, and kind of to backtrack a little bit to give kind of an idea where it came from is literally yesterday. I was on shift, and we sat down in the morning and had a pretty lengthy talk. We've got a playbook, basically a writing assignment book of different generic calls, different tasks that we might do of just what we're supposed to, if it's just a bread and butter house fire, what we're doing writing assignments. If we're in charge of VES single story, VES 2-story, multi-story, whatever, just different things. And just from learning some things here lately, I felt like we needed to change it a little bit. And exactly what you just said is one of those that I felt like we need to change. In the playbook, it's basically me sending our irons guy through the window, and as an officer, the captain myself sits at the window and waits. And I don't think I like that. I want to be in there. Okay, if we're talking about just a single room, then I can get in there and I can just post up at the base of the window, just to keep out of the way if I need to, or I can search if it's a big room, to help. But once we get into talking about going beyond the door, or even if we really expect to have a victim in there, then why wouldn't I already be in there ready to go? Because it, to expect one person to get in there, find the door, close the door, search, find the victim, and get that victim to the window to me, and then be able to lift them up, all that by themselves, that's crazy. If you expect that, you haven't done it yourself. You know what I mean? It's a lot of
Absolutely.
work. And
It
so,
is.
to go beyond, or to kind of tie that in again with what you were saying, is why would we sit there and bottleneck behind the fire tech crew that, is, like you said, you got 2, 3, maybe even 4 people on that line trying to get through there. Then me and my crew have got 2 or 3 guys trying to trying to get in behind them to go the other way or whatever. It's, there are so many other options, I would say most generally, that we could be doing to save time if we just break that mold, break that mindset that we have to go through the front door behind fire tap. And so, yeah, I totally agree. That's exactly kind of one of the areas I wanted to kind of gear towards, for sure.
Yeah, and I definitely hit on that, and Pablo will as too, because this is probably one of the most things that we are most passionate about for sure. Is, look, when we start a search, we're indicating that we're going to finish that search, right? So one of the things that drives me crazy is when we teach VES or anything like that, go in this window, search it, come back out this window, go to the next one, and you're wasting time, right? The only thing on VES that changes really is that I think people get hung up on is the name. All right.
Yeah.
It's still a primary search. It's a window initiated search. Your function does not change. Okay. It's very rapid and very quick, specifically designed to target those high probability areas, right? So, hey, if you and I are in, I just don't understand why you're sitting there at the window doing nothing. Okay.
Yeah.
And that's not to take anything away from anybody, but I'm gonna tell you right now, we might have a general idea of the layout of this room from the outside. But people do crazy stuff. They move furniture around, they add on, they do whatever. So until you're in that room and you're searching it, you really have no idea what this layout is, and you really don't even have an idea if you have a door. You have to try and find one. So one of the things that I have learned over time is, hey, you know what? If we put two people in that window, one can go immediately try and find the door while the other one starts searching, right?
Yep.
And you're going to be searching on the way to that door. So we're covering more space. What happens if you don't have a door? Okay, well, if you don't have a door, we need to stop and assess this for a second. Why don't we have a door? You know, and then vice versa. If you do have a door and you show up and you shut it, right? That's when you need to call back to your other crew member. Hey, you know, door's isolated. What do you got? If he needs you to help him finish searching the room, then by all means do so. Okay. The second benefit to doing that, before we talk about going outside of the bedroom and extending that search beyond the door, is, let's say you and I do search and one of us finds a victim. Are we just going to stop the search? No, we still have to search. So this is where teaching victim removal techniques comes in. I will come back and help you, but let me finish searching this room while you drag that victim to the location of the exit, whether it be an adjacent room or the window we came in from, right? So it's about functionality, increasing our odds to clear spaces quicker, increasing our odds to locate and remove victims, you know, because that's pretty much our primary objective, right? In order to remove a victim, you've got to locate them first. So if we went in here and we're going to this door and we're done searching, why not just peek that door open, reassess the situation? If you could press further, then press further. The only thing you have to do is tell command that you're leaving the initial VES location and extending your search. That's it. It is literally no different than if we go through a front door, we find a bedroom, we enter that bedroom, we search it, we come out of that bedroom, we go down the hallway, go into another room, close that door, search it. It's a compartmentalized search. But because we're saying that we're going in a window and we're doing it that way, that's where people are like, oh no, you can't do that. That's dangerous. And it's really not, you know. And if we're, the benefit of the hose line, every function on the fire ground should be in support of the other one, right? So the benefit of the hose line is, hey, as searchers, you and I go ahead of the hand line and we're recon. So we can tell that fire attack team exactly where to go. And we can also be isolating along the way if we need to, right? Keeping that fire in check and things like that. So there is tremendous benefit to setting the search crew in ahead of the hand line versus the other way, because the fire attack team tends to sit there, camp out, and you got three guys on a line. Two of them are watching the nozzle man and they're not even doing anything. And then your search crew comes in behind them, right? So crew efficiency is what we really need to get better at.
Absolutely. That's a very good point. Crew efficiency. Actually, I was just literally, as you were saying that, I was literally writing down right now. I just don't want to forget what I wanted. Searching is no different than truck work, where in the sense of ventilation purposes, I know that searching is part of truck work, but in the sense of ventilation purposes, it needs to be coordinated. And I am a big proponent also of what Sean's talking about. Obviously putting two rescuers inside doing the search. Have one of the rescuers be dedicated to your search, to the actual searching. Think about your time now. Every time that you both have been in a structure fire, you're working, your adrenaline's going. She's juicy. She's in there. She's pumping. You're searching. Whether you're flowing water, whether you're doing truck work, whether you're doing search, you come out of there and you're kind of foggy in the sense of how hot it was, right? You're in a fire. You know that she was getting it. You got soot all over your helmet. You might have some stuff that's melted inside. Ceiling fans melted, whatever, et cetera, et cetera. But you yourself, when you come outside and you go to rehab, you're like, man, it's I forgot. Like, you don't really feel while you're in there because your adrenaline is pumping how hot it was. So yeah. I'm a big proponent of having one of the rescuers be the search and rescue guy, while the other rescuer monitors conditions. Now, obviously, while you're moving around, when you're bumping up to your partner, when you sit at a doorway and you monitor conditions with your tick, or you monitor conditions in other ways, yes, do a quick little sweep, hook and look around the area. That's fine. I understand that. But if you have one rescuer that's dedicated to searching, while the other rescuer is dedicated to monitoring conditions, and keeping oriented as to where he or she is at, man, that goes such a long way, especially when we start getting into VES beyond the door, where you start bumping up out of that initial room. And just like truck work, as far as ventilation is coordinated, the interior search team doing that interior search needs to be coordinated too. Like if I need to communicate to my partner, like, hey brother, I didn't find a door. Just heads up, I didn't find the door, because you do have to keep in mind that flow path that you're doing. So communication is key. If you find a door, like we need to close that door. That's why we should all have wedges with us, cherry bombs with us, anything to keep that door from completely shutting, but isolating yourself right behind you. So I think it's a big thing to have coordinated searches. I think that's something that we don't hit on too much as a company, as a fire service. Searches need to be coordinated. The audible shouldn't be like, you shouldn't be throwing an audible on scene of who's doing what. That should be in your playbook already at the station. You have this, you have this, you have this, you have this. The audible on scene should be, what is the fire telling me? When I show up on scene, is it a 2-story? Do we have multiple children's toys outside? Do we have multiple cars outside? Do we have handicap ramps? What is the building telling me? What is the fire telling me? Which then I could throw my audible as to how I'm going to initiate my search. But the audible shouldn't be like on the fly, like, hey man, all right, you go first. I'll follow you. Fuck that. That's definitely shouldn't be on scene. That's probably a bad thing. Also, talking about Sean hit on earlier, when he started talking about time. Man, like, we need to get away from the "it's not my emergency" bullshit. I'm a career fireman, so I'll say it from the career standpoint. Marion County, Florida. The citizens of Marion County, Florida pay me a salary to make it my emergency. Within that, I'm not going to be reckless. Am I going down the road, putting the truck on 2 wheels? No, I'm not advocating none of that stuff. Yeah, I'm just saying it is our emergency. We get paid to we get paid for when the citizens can no longer handle it themselves, for it to be my emergency. You know, that's literally the equivalent of me, you know, like our country going to war and be like, oh, I don't, you know, forget our troops, yada yada. It's not my war. Actually, you're those guys are they're doing their job for you because you can't do it anymore. So actually, it is their war. You know, like they're fighting for us. So in the same sense, from a community standpoint, we're fighting for them. So it's not my emergency. That's absolute bullshit. You know, we go back to like everything's time sensitive. You know, so the conversation with that starts with everything is time sensitive. So it is my emergency. It is time matters. The turnout time matters. The mask up time matters. You know, how fast can you put on your gear? That matters. You know, so and we have this. There's unfortunately especially if you're in districts or battalions that don't catch as much work. I think that this luck breeds complacency mindset kind of like just sets in, like, whatever, we won't catch it today. Whatever, we won't catch it today. You know, and it's like one of those things like, well, why do you wear your seatbelt? You know, like it's not like I leave my house in the morning and I'm thinking to myself, well, fuck, I'm going to roll my car on I-75 today. You know, but I wear my seatbelt every day just in case for that one time that, you know, like something happens, either someone hits me or I have a tire blowout or whatever. That one time, that seatbelt might save my life, and that's why I wear it all the time. So, like, you know, like we have this mentality, and we need to shake it out of people. Of like, I understand you might not be going to work every single day, but every single day you need to come to work expecting to catch work. And if we get into that mentality, I think that'll be that will start biting away at that whole like it's not my emergency bullshit, because you're expecting it to be your emergency at that point every day you come to work.
We talked about a little bit about kind of techniques, training to learn better techniques and all that. But I think another area of training that we have to do is just training with the search, as far as like splitting your crews or just working amongst your crew in the process of searching, especially if you are someone that's going to be in the role of either an officer role or just somebody that's kind of in charge of accountability inside a structure. Because you know, I'm fairly young in the role of a captain, but I've already had some pretty good turnaround, or whatever you want to call it, in my crews. You know, I get new crew members or lose crew members, you know, whatever. And every time I do that, you lose a lot of rhythm, a lot of just getting to know each other. And you know, that has nothing to do with this new person doesn't know what they're doing. It just has to do with you aren't comfortable with where they're at. They don't know how you run things. And so just getting in there and going through evolutions, you know, splitting crews, knowing that, okay, I've got one person with me, or I've got two people with me. How does that influence, you know, what are the differences in how we operate in those situations? And knowing that, okay, this person, he tends to he's super fast at his searches. I know that I need to be kind of ready for him to hit that next room right away, because he's moving a lot fast. You know what I'm talking about. Just that rhythm of your crew, how they operate, the trust within your crew of knowing that just I can kind of keep verbal contact with everybody and not have to hold their legs. I know where they're at. I know that they do their job well. And you know, that's been huge for me, as far as once I get somebody new, or if it's a whole crew that's new. You know, I've done that too. We have to get out there and we have to hit it hard right away, because I don't have a comfort level with them. And so I think that's something that we also need to really think about as far as training, you know, what you need to focus on as well.
Yeah,
Actually,
absolutely.
go ahead, Sean. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I couldn't agree more. And, you know, to be successful at searching, somebody has to lead that search effort. I mean, that's just got to be it. And that is my biggest problem with searches that use leapfrogging, is in your mind, you might be covering more space. Like, I'll take this room, you go ahead, I'll come out, we'll switch spots. But really all you're doing is, one, confusing yourself with orientation, and two, you're making the other searcher work twice as hard. So you're not really truly getting that break that people think you're getting. Somebody needs to be in charge. So, hey, if there's two people coming down this hallway and there's a room off to the left, somebody say, hey, search that room. I'll stay here. I'll monitor conditions. That doesn't mean that you can't bump down the hallway, right, and start searching that other room. But if you choose to do that and you split off like that, then that one person who came back out still leading that search effort, right? And the importance of that is that you always have somebody that knows, one, the last known location, and two, your exits if you need to, should you need to bail for any reason, or you have a victim, those things. What happens when you leapfrog is everybody's heart rates get really, really high, and you start to get tunnel vision and focused in on one thing, and nobody's paying attention to conditions if they change. Nobody's really paying attention to exits, because when I find somebody, I say, I have a victim, where are we at? The next immediate thing is going to be like, I thought you knew, right? So, like I said, it's a systematic thing, like we've been talking about too, right? Compartmentalizing and coordinating that search effort. If we can get away from that, I think that we'll be more successful, because it truly is important that somebody knows what's going on. And take it, so let's just take search out of it for whatever reason. Like, just whatever you're doing inside that building, we all carry radios, and we all have them on our TAC channels that we're communicating on it and whatever. Okay, so we go in as a team. Who's monitoring that radio transmissions? Who's talking to command, letting them know like what's going on? Well, if we're both busy doing stuff, none of us are doing it, because I'm just going to assume that you're going to do it, and you're going to assume that I'm going to do it, or both of us are just going to completely miss what's being said. And we might miss that call to exit that structure, or we might miss that call for our progress report, or something that we need to hear. So we got to slow it down and let one person be in charge of directing that whole effort, and work together as a team to accomplish that task. But make sure that we're doing it. We're remaining aggressive, but tactically aggressive.
Absolutely. Man, I couldn't agree more, man. And it's not obviously much of a surprise there, Sean. I agree on a lot of stuff, but I consider myself physically fit to do the job. Anybody that follows me or knows me knows that I really enjoy the physical aspect of this job. I'm in good shape, and searching tires me the fuck out.
Oh yeah.
There's the great equalizer is throw some gear on, get yourself in a nasty environment, and start searching. Once again, we go back to a statement I said earlier about we like to sell each other bullshit, and we buy it, like nobody talks about the human element of the search. So when you start getting into the human element of the search, and all of a sudden, we're searching and we're both searching, like Sean said, in the same room, because we're leapfrogging or we're together, like, little choo-choo train style together. And so basically we're both searching again, whether it be the choo-choo train style or whether leapfrogging, you take this room, you take this room. I mean, we're both actively searching. Both of those heart rates are going to sit there at condition black. At some point or another, you're not going to A, listen to anything that the radio is telling you, or B, what if you have to get out on the radio? Next thing you know, what do we start listening to at that point? Commands like, the hell did that guy just say? Because they're not there. So that's why we're huge in understanding, hey, there's two jobs during a search team. You got someone that's searching, you have one that's keeping orientation. Obviously, just we help each other. One hand washes the other. As I'm searching, I'm going to try my hardest to keep orientation. It isn't I'm just searching blindly.
Yeah.
And while I'm doing oriented stuff, or being the orient man, I'm also doing a quick little sweep layout of the areas that are within my grasp. I'm not just randomly just like, I got my job and nothing else to do. But as long as you keep to your job, hopefully that heart rate, that that heart rate stays down and that you're able to stay there physically and emotionally, right, throughout the entire thing. So we're talking about physical, right? Physicality of the fire service. In sports, whether it be high school, college, professional, doesn't matter. There's different levels of talent. Sports is a physical entity. Whether you play basketball, baseball, it doesn't matter. Badminton, I don't give a fuck. It's a physical thing. So while we're doing a physical thing, there's usually different levels of talent. Like there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. I could get on the basketball field or on the basketball court right now and absolutely stink it up because I'm not as talented as someone else, and I can't bitch about that. There's no point that I can bitch about. Like you are more talented than I am on the basketball court, for example. Yep. Why are we not understanding that when it comes down to the job that we do? The job that we do is demanding as far as physically is concerned. And it's demanding as far as mental is concerned, because you have to understand all the stuff, all the dynamics that's going on in the fireground. You have to be able, look at the analogies that you're saying, Jeremy. You're talking about a playbook that comes out of football. I'm talking about audibles that comes out of football. Like understanding the dynamic of the fireground, that is a physical and mental challenge, just like sports is. But why don't we say the truth that there is different levels of talent to what we do here, and you have to be able to be willing to go into the firehouse and do the work that it takes to get up to the talent level of certain members that maybe, like that other people look up to, and not just say, oh, he's ate up with the job. No. It's not that he's ate up with the job. He's talented, or she's talented. They understand the job. They're physically fit to perform the job. So we need to really, really take a good look at how we view physical fitness and how we view the tactician part of the job, and understand that there is different levels of this. There is different talent levels, and it's okay to say that. And we all need to strive to make each other better, to lift each other up to that talent level. Like I'm pretty, if we're on the basketball court and I suck and I'm on your team, I'm pretty sure you're gonna want to be like, hey, bro, we need to go shoot some free throws. You can't be doing that. You're going to cost us the fucking game. Well, why are we not talking about that same shit in the fire service? Like, hey, bro, we need to go throw some fucking ladders because you're going to cost us the game. And for here's the thing that nobody talks about. EMS too, bro. We do EMS. There's different levels of talent in EMS. It is what it is. If we have to literally tell someone like, hey, man, so that neb treatment that you tried to put together, I don't know what the hell you were doing, but you were hooking up the CPAP to the cannula to this, and I don't know what the fuck that was, but we need to get better. Like there's different levels of talent, and we need to bring each other up to that same level, and we need to. That's not something that we need to put on the back burner. We need to talk about it and be okay with talking about it.
Oh yeah. It's funny, as you're talking about that, I'm just kind of realizing that, we've been training a lot over the past, I don't know, 8 months, 10 months. We're continuing to evolve, and I'm talking about myself and the crew I'm with right now, and we're trying to do something every day, and some days it doesn't happen, or some days it's just me doing something because I want to do something every day, and maybe other people have something going on. But I'm realizing, as you're saying that as much as we do, and I'm not trying to act like we're busy all day long, every day training. We spend 30 minutes, hour, 2 hours, whatever a day doing something good, learning something, just doing something. But even as much as we do, I feel almost every time I do it that, gosh, I suck at everything. I don't feel like I'm just great at anything. I feel like, yeah, I'm getting better, absolutely. But to sit here and say, oh yeah, I've got a great handle on that, or I feel completely competent in every way about that task or that skill, I just don't. And maybe that's just my personality, but I feel like if I feel that way and we're doing something a lot, how can anybody sit there and do your minimum company standards, whatever that looks like, every
Yeah.
quarter or every 6 months,
Mhm.
and coast the rest of the time and be okay with it? I just, and I say that, but I'll qualify that as, and also say that, I've been on the other side of that. I have not involved myself in training. So I'm not trying to, be holier than thou. I get it. But now, being on this side, seeing it, having a passion to get better, having a drive to learn every day, it's like, gosh, to have that mentality, it's so wrong and so flawed. We have got to really drop the ego, drop the whatever it is that's keeping us from really growing and learning every day, and get humble and get better. And I just, yeah, as you're saying that, it just kind of keeps coming to light, just personally.
Yeah, and the funny thing about that, Jeremy, is I couldn't agree more. And here it is. Pablo touched on EMS, and I get it. It's the least glorious work there is in our line of work to some,
Uh-huh.
but we have to do it a lot, and that is just the nature of the beast. When you go through paramedic school or EMT school or whatever your level of training is, at the end of that, you take a test that certifies you that you have a certain level of competence. Great. We also have that same thing on the fire side, right? However, the things that I think we disconnect from is there's this thing called negligence, right? And on the EMS side of things, if you should have done something and you didn't, that has significant consequences, right? Up to and including jail time. You could lose your license, you could be sued civilly, like all of that stuff. So why do we not hold that same standard to ourselves on the fire side, knowing, hey, I also had to demonstrate a certain level of competence, although it may only be entry level. I still have a piece of paper that says I know what my basic job duties are, and that's up to you to advance those. But when you go against those basic job duties, it's no big deal. People brush it under the rug. There's like, oh, there's nothing we could have done. The fire was too far gone by the time we got there, whatever the level of excuses are. And the thing is, when you're sitting around the table at the end of the day or at the end of the call and you're looking at each other and you're going, hey, you saw what I saw, right? There's no way we could have made that search, right? Like we did everything we could, right? That is admitting a certain level of guilt, right? You're trying to seek validation from other people around you because you know that for whatever reason you weren't prepared and you failed to perform. There's no other question about it. And I'm kind of really sick and tired of hearing that, oh, well, nothing's going to happen. Well, that's not true. Fire departments and people are getting sued all the time for showing up to fires and not doing things that they were supposed to do, like search. And you could go online and see there's so many articles out there now that talk about how victims were found once the fire was out, or that the fire department had left the scene and they found a body. And we're doing a really poor job at all the things that we should be proficient at. And I think until we get a mindset that we can take that as seriously as we take medical emergencies and the consequences that happen from not doing our job on that end, I don't know, man. I think that some lessons are going to have to be learned for people to understand the importance of being good at all facets of your job.
I think something that just really just snapped into my head just now, and it kind of comes from what you're talking about, is, and I think it's a very interesting thought. So, like you said, the medical side, I'll just speak for myself and be real honest. I hate medical. I hate it. I just don't have any interest in it. But
Sure.
I understand that if it wasn't for us running medical calls, I probably wouldn't have a job. That's a gigantic majority of what we do. So, okay, I get it. And like you said, that is not something that's just me. That's a fire service thing. Okay, so if that is a fire service thing, and a lot of us don't like medical, a lot of us love fire. A lot of us love, we're firefighters because we want to fight fire. We want to pull people out of buildings. Okay, if that is the truth, then why don't we do a better job of being prepared for it? Does that make sense? I mean, if that is
Perfect sense.
something that we are here to do, and we don't like medical, but we like fire, that's what we do. Why aren't we doing it? Why aren't we better at training for it? Why aren't we better at doing it on scene? And that's, I mean, literally just as you were talking, that came to me. It's like, you, you can't sit there and gripe about medical because you're a, air quotes, firefighter first, but you're really not, because you're not doing anything to be better as a firefighter. You don't really, yeah. Does that kind of make sense to you guys? I mean, that's a pretty big, it just kind of came to me and I was like, wow, that's a
Absolutely,
pretty
and it
interesting.
boils down to, so we'll turn the conversation all the way back around, all the way back to culture. What type of culture do you have in your department? So uh, it's funny. Here's a little secret like that nobody talks about. You work in New York City, you work in Chicago, or you work in Key West, you're gonna do 90% medical. You work in the London Fire Brigade, you're gonna do 90% medical. It doesn't matter where you work, we're gonna run a fuck ton of medical. Now, here's my question to everybody out there that's gonna be listening to this. What type of culture does your department have? I say that once again, I'm going to reiterate. We run medical, 90% of it, everywhere. But does your fire department, is it a fire department that happens to run EMS, or do you work for an EMS department that happens to run fire? And when you answer that to yourself, you'll answer where your culture is sitting. I know that I'm biased because I enjoy the fire side more. Having said that, if you are generally in a department that runs EMS and that is an EMS department that happens to run fire, your fire culture and the culture overall of your department is going to suffer a little bit. The fire department that has, and I know I might take a little flack for that. That's just a personal opinion. That opinion does not reflect this podcast, Marion County Fire Rescue, the Marion County Fools, City of Venice, Jeremy Sanders, or Sean Duffy, or my personal opinion. But when you happen to run a department that has a heavy fire culture, a tradition in the fire side, it generally tends to spill over to the EMS side, and you get good service. You get a bunch of good hungry firemen that want to that want to provide a good level of service, that go to that will hopefully go to a patient's house and give them great care, that they're not, hopefully they're not salty, they're not bitter about running you know running the medical or whatever, like, because you have a good standing tradition on the fire side. And like I said, that's something that I'm blessed to have here in Marion County. We have a good standing tradition on the fire side, which seeps over to the EMS side. Obviously, I'm not ignorant to the fact that there's places and there's districts in every department that are probably not the best, and they're not giving exactly the best care in the world. It is what it is. That's just something that happens in every profession. That has nothing to do with the fire service. I'm pretty fucking sure if you line up 10 astronauts, one of the astronauts is gonna look at another one and be like, "Fuck, you don't want to go to space with that fucking moron." It is what it is. That happens in every profession. I think we kid ourselves. We kid ourselves in thinking that it's just us. It's not. But in my experiences, I did work. I have worked for hospital systems. I have worked for private ambulance companies, and I have worked for a multitude of departments. Not a multitude, but I've worked for two fire departments. So I have a little bit of experience with different levels of our service, from different departments to EMS agencies, literally to hospitals. And my experience is when you have a deep fire tradition, you tend to have a good culture at the firehouse, a good culture of patient care, a good culture of training. And going back to the training thing real quick, Jeremy, man, I would be a complete liar. Once again, I don't like to sell bullshit. I would be a complete liar if I fucking told you, like, hey, I work 100, because we worked in 10 days a month. I work 120 days of the year, and 120 days of the year we're fucking stretching lines. Man, I'm not. That's not the truth. That's not the truth of it. I'm human just like anybody else. On a Sunday I like to watch football. I'm big into college football on Saturdays also. Like if it's Christmas Day, man, I want, or Thanksgiving or some shit like that, 4th of July, I want the family. Just because we're working doesn't mean that I'm not homesick, that my family's, so I invite them over to the firehouse, man. Maybe we're not stretching lines on 4th of July. I want my family to come over and just hang out at the firehouse with us until we get a run or something, So is every day a training day? No. But the same thing goes for the gym. Like, are you at the gym? 365 days of the year? Man, even the world's top bodybuilders are not in the gym 365 days of the year. But consistency leads to success. And if we could continue that and understand that and bottle that consistently leads to success, that means that you could just go to the firehouse and have a chill day. But if you have more training days and you do have chill days, consistently leads to success. So, man, that's my 2 cents on the training everyday aspect.
Yeah, no, that's good stuff. And I know in the beginning of this, Pablo, you said nobody can define culture, right? And it's funny that we come back to culture in this conversation. And to me, I'm looking at the slide that we have in our culture class, and one of the slides is culture is our identity, right? So the point that we make there is, if you want to know a fire department's culture, look at their mission statement. Well, mission statements around the fire service are pretty much all the same, right? One here says the mission of the fire service is to save lives and protect property. Great. Almost every single fire department's mission statement says that. But what we have to ask ourselves is, are we living up to that, right? And that's really it. If you want to know a department's culture, we should be able to view their mission statement. So when we walk in and we look at our trucks or we look at our uniform or wherever, and we see that reminder, man, every single one of us should be held to that standard no matter what. So if you're not training, or maybe your search techniques or training are off, or how you stretch line, or whatever the issue is, then you're really lying to the citizens, right? Because they see this mission statement and they're like, oh, that's my fire department. This is what they said they would do. Yet here you are, you're showing up to work and you're not doing it, and you're breeding that culture, right? So whether you realize it or not, what happens is, over time, newer members coming into the organization, they see the behavior of the senior members. They see that maybe that department doesn't put the emphasis on their mission statement like they should. So can you really blame them for just kind of falling right in line to what everybody else around them is doing? And that's where I think we start failing the most, is when we don't have any consequences for our lack of performance, right? We will not hesitate to ask the citizens for a raise or a new fire engine or whatever it is. But in that same very sentence, we don't take the time to look and realize, like, hey, maybe I'm not doing what I told them I would do. So before I ask for this stuff, I have some work that needs to happen for myself and my crew and the members of this department, so that in good faith, I can look at them and say, we need these things because we do provide this service. And if you can't do that, then we're kind of missing our mark.
Absolutely.
Yeah. No, I completely agree with that, and yeah, there's a lot to talk about even just right there. But I had the really great opportunity this last Friday of listening to a lot of good speakers. Our local schools had a conference in Oklahoma City, Midwest City, basically. But really, really big names there. You had Brian Brush, you had Chief Kurt Isaacson, and Mike Walker from Oklahoma City. Several other people, Corley Moore, and a lot of that conversations of all of their presentations revolved around this. And that's kind of what led me into the, what I said earlier about really relooking how we do things at my crew. But talking to or listening to Isaacson, man, that dude, if anybody has ever heard anything from him, YouTube or whatever, this was the first time I heard him in person. But that you can't get any more passionate than that guy, and it's awesome just to sit there and listen to him, because he's not somebody that's just talking about stuff that he came up with. This guy lived this stuff. This guy, he's experienced these things, and it because you can't fake that kind of passion and that emotion. And something that I loved what he said is survivable is up to God, searchable is up to us. And I know I'm paraphrasing a little bit. I'm sure that's not the exact words of it, but that'll give you the idea of it, man. I think, yeah, I think that kind of what started this whole conversation is, yes, we're telling everybody to shut your doors, close your doors before you go to bed at night, and we're going to come get you. But are we going to come get you? Are we going to put that as a priority? If we got a house that is blowing fire out of every window except for one in the back corner, are we going to go get somebody out of that? Are we going to at least search it? And man, if you sit there and tell the citizens that this is what we're going to do for you, if you just help us out, buy us some time and shut that door, we will be there and we will come through that window and get you. We better be doing it. And man, I don't know, and I'm just talking personally from what I see. I don't feel like we are really backing up what we're saying right now. I feel like we have got to really step it up, and that's just how I feel personally.
Oh, dude, I couldn't agree more. And I talked about that a little bit in the fire engineer article that I just read about search. And when you look at the numbers and you pull them out, Firefighter Rescue Survey does an excellent job of providing those to us. And in those numbers, it's like 18% of the time that we're finding victims get found isolated, which means what? They're behind the wall, right? So some people might say, oh, it's only 18%. That's not a whole lot of people. Whereas I say, well, that's 18%. So what does that tell you? That tells you that people are listening. If they are going to listen, then they're putting faith in us. We do the exact opposite. So if they gave themselves a chance, we could have gotten them, but we chose not to, right? That is a huge issue, because when we talk about conditions, when we show up, we see observable conditions from the exterior. That does not always indicate what's happening on the interior, right? Fire just looks big, right? Until we put some water on it, then it kind of shrinks down. But there have been multiple reports of people being isolated behind closed doors in what looks like a non-survivable environment who survived that fire, right? So I'm not saying we need to see something in the windows that are blowing out fire and stuff like that. But we do need to understand like building construction and fire behavior and all these things that play a role into our decision-making process. You walk around and you see that there's planes shooting out a window. You need to stop and take a second and look. You go, okay, well, is this a high window? That means it's got a high exhaust point. So from the exterior, it's like this room fully involved. But it may well not be. There could be several feet below that exhaust point that has survivable atmosphere. We're just writing it off because of what we see on the outside. It's fully involved when maybe they're not fully involved. Maybe only 10%, 25%. So when we're saying over the radio, the way that we say things has an impact on people, right? I know for myself, if you say involved, I go, oh, great, okay, this would be defensive operation and emergency goes down a little bit because, hey, I'm pulled on the outside and I'm just to spray water for a couple hours. But then when you get there and you realize, hey, there's just 2 or 3 rooms going on, this is not really involved. that whole time, right? You kind of took the wind to someone's sails. They didn't really think that there was much going on. And all of a sudden, they're surprised. It's like, hey, we got a rescue that we have to make, or whatever the situation is. So you talked about Brian Brush, and I want to mention something from him real quick that I learned. He wrote an article on Firefighting Nation not too long ago, and the title was VES, Victims Expecting Search. And I think that is perfect there, right? We tend to put a lot of time and effort on acronyms and making fancy little titles. So if we're going to choose to do that and remember stuff, then VES need to remember that that's what they're expecting, right? They're expecting to do a search. And when you talk about the numbers from Firefighter Rescue Survey, since they started documenting everything, there have been 133 documented rescues from VES with a survival rate of 48%. So nearly half of them that we find are surviving. That's great odds. When we say, oh, it's too dangerous, like we can't do this, or this is too aggressive tactic, the last line of duty death from VES was FDNY 1989. Okay. So we're having a lot more success than we are hurting people. And in fact, if you look up U.S. Fire Administration, you look on the website, from 2016 to 2018, there was 269 line of duty deaths. 6 of those, or roughly 2.3%, died while inside of a structure fire. So what does that tell you? We're back to that fear mongering, back to saying we can't do these things because it's dangerous. But when you start cracking open the books and looking at the numbers and doing all these things and diving into this and gathering information, we want to make our decisions based off of facts and not fear. And the facts are right here. That these tactics that we choose are highly aggressive, but guess what? Firefighting should be aggressive. We should move with purpose and a sense of urgency, especially when it comes to trying to locate and remove victims. So when you start looking at all these numbers that we were able to compile, we're highly successful. Where we are not successful, in my opinion, is because we choose not to, or we choose not to make that decision to try and make this push, try and make this search happen, because we just don't understand what it is we're dealing with.
You got anything else on that, Pablo?
Yeah, brother. I love that word. I love that phrase, fear mongering. I couldn't agree more. I don't think any fireman that you ever talk to that is, and we'll use that in quotation marks here in a second, aggressive, will disagree with you that our job is highly dangerous. We have a profession that can, in fact, kill us. It can injure us severely. I understand that. We all do. Anybody that's ever put on gear and actually gone to work at more than just a training burn in a Castbox will understand that it is one of those professions that can harm us. Having said that, we need to stop fear mongering people and understand that there's a job that we need to do, and we're not. Sometimes, if depending on who you talk to, it is literally like if you put on gear and you go to a structure fire, it's like if you're fucking performing a damn a raid on the Laden's complex. Like, we're going overseas, flip a coin, boys, we're going with with the SEAL team. Like it is a dangerous profession, but we need to stop fear mongering people. Understand that if we understand what we're doing, we have our proper equipment on, and we understand the tactics of which we're doing, we barring obviously the unforeseen, we should hopefully make it back. And we just, the fear mongering is what kills me. You literally hear people, and it's like, God forbid you VES, with 2 people, et cetera, et cetera. So just go. That's just my little tidbit. I just want to touch on that with what Sean said, because I couldn't agree more, man. Fear mongering needs to stop. Going back with what just the passion that Chief Ike speaks with. I've always said it, man. I think I'm gonna make a T-shirt out of it at this point. You could fake a lot of shit, but you can't fake passion.
Yeah.
And anybody will sniff you out in a heartbeat if you're just talking for a quick buck, or if you're just talking just to get on a fucking podcast or whatever. You can fake a lot of shit, but you can't fake passion, man. In this profession, they'll sniff you out.
Oh yeah. No, and that's a good thing too. I definitely see that as a good thing, because you know, there's a lot of people out there, and we've already talked about it. There's a lot of great people. You know, this is what keeps us all going. But at the same time, you do have to be careful, because you know, like you said, there are a lot of people out there talking just because they like to hear themselves talk, or they just want to make a name out of themselves. So you know, it sucks that it's like that, because it does take away from others that do have a great message and something to share. But you know, I agree.
Yeah, the biggest thing I think is, you know, we're all students of the craft. None of us out here are experts, right? I don't care how long you've been in the fire service, you're not going to be an expert. It's just not going to happen, because there's always something to learn, right? Look at our building construction, look at our fire environment. You know, now our fires are measured in seconds, our fire growth is measured in seconds, not minutes. 30 years ago, we had more time than we do today. So that's just a small example. So we got to be careful who we choose to listen to. You know, there's a lot of self-proclaimed experts out there, and you start chipping away at that, and you find out really that maybe the things they say are it's simply just regurgitation. They've never actually done it, never trained on it, or anything like that. When you start asking them unscripted, you start chipping away at all that stuff of tell me why, your information, all this stuff. That's when you're going to truly know, is somebody knowledgeable in this area? Have they actually done this before? Or are they just fire service to one thing where they get out there and they talk a bunch of stuff so that people can say, look at me, look at me. And that's a tremendous disservice to our fire service right now. Is that we do have people out there that have figured this out, that for some reason it's important for them to be a someone. And that's not the intent of all of this, so that we all grow, we all learn together, share knowledge and experience, so that we can all be long, healthy careers and make decisions that benefit not us, but the civilians that we said that we were going to protect. And I think if you're not doing that, right, then you deserve to get called on your mission. You deserve to be found out, because those are the people that you want teaching young professional.
Yeah, no, man, I couldn't agree more. I encourage any single person that ever takes a class from anybody to find out about their background and what you're teaching. And let me elaborate on that. I work in a mostly suburban to rural area. I have areas that are suburban, you know, like I have like subdivisions, private dwellings, 1,600 to 2,000 square foot. And I have areas in my first due that have mobile homes, with, you know, like that they're sitting on an acre of land. My expertise. So when I regurgitate information on whether it be the search or truck company operations, my expertise lands within the scope of the suburban to rural firefighter. The staffing that's not up, that, you know, it's not a 5 or 6 man truck, it's a 3-man truck. The calling the audible on scene, you know, like, are you the irons man? Are you searching? Are you taking the roof? What tools are you taking? Are you getting off with a can and a hook? Are you getting off with the irons? You know, you're taking utilities, whatever. Those are my expertise. And the moment that all of a sudden I start regurgitating information, for example, on, like, you know, taking the roof on, you know, on brownstones and, you know, or securing bulkheads or shit like that, man, at that point, you as an instructor or you as a student need to realize that something is not right there. Like, I shouldn't be, I'm not going to teach you how to make a stairwell push, because my bread and butter is private dwellings. I can't sit there and be like, oh man, I got so many fucking stairwell pushes. I don't have stairwell pushes. Like I could teach you how, or I could regurgitate information on how to advance into hoarder homes, how to understand, that 2,000 square foot double wide mobile home that's 4 foot elevated, that's 2.5 rooms going. Like I understand those types of things. I understand lightweight roof construction, especially here, obviously in the state of Florida, and how to navigate a shitty roof, in the sense of like from the lightweight roof construction standpoint. I understand those types of things, but at the moment that I tell someone is like how to fucking make a stairwell push or a basement push, man, at some point or another you gotta look and be like, the fuck is this guy talking? Like you gotta like call him. He's at that point, that instructor, quote unquote, is then teaching shit that he just learned at a conference or learned on a YouTube video or whatever, but he's not really using practical real world experience on it, and you have to be able to pride yourself somehow and for all the guys and gals out there that fancy themselves in wanting to teach or regurgitate information, I really highly suggest to seek out your busy battalions, seek out your busy districts. I understand that sometimes you're not going to get full nights of sleep. I understand that obviously with busy battalions and busy districts comes inherited medical calls overnight, a fuck ton of them, to be quite honest. But it is what it is. You're not going to get full nights of sleep, but those busy battalions and districts are usually going to give you your busiest fire load. And then within that, go to conferences and then learn from other individuals that have districts and battalions that are similar to yours. So you could put not only your real world experiences on the line, but you could actually learn from other individuals that have similar battalions and districts that are doing things maybe a little bit different. So you can start picking brains, and then you put those two together and you mesh it. So we have to be careful of, like, you could be out in a battalion or a district, and you could choose a house that maybe runs fucking one call every 2 or 3 shifts, but you go to a fuck ton of conferences. I mean, an absolute fuck ton of conferences throughout the year. So all of a sudden you have you have a lot of this, like, oh, because this person taught me this and this person taught me this, and I took this class from this person, yada yada, but you have no real world experience. Now, on the same token, flip it on the other side. You choose to go to a busy district or battalion. You're running 15, 20 runs a day, fair amount of fire, good amount of pin dogs, whatever. But you choose because you, in your mind, are like, oh, well, I run a busy district. Nobody can fucking teach me anything. You choose never to go to any conference or take any type of outside class or have any outside influence. You have no idea if what you're doing is up to par, up to date, the most current knowledge. All you know is your district, your little battalion. That is equally as bad. There has to be a point where you are able to straddle the fence on both sides and be like, I'm going to seek out a busy district and battalion, and I'm going to go take classes and conferences. And when you take classes and conferences, try your hardest to seek out individuals that are teaching what they know, like if, like here at our nearest conference here at the Orlando Fire Conference, those guys are good at teaching what they know. And when they, Fort Lauderdale Fire Conferences are another nearest one. Those guys are really good at teaching what they know. I love seeing that. And I hate seeing instructors out there that will step out of their lanes, and it is what it is. We all have lanes. Like I said, I'm not going to go teach about bulkheads because I don't have one fucking bulkhead in my first, second, third, or fourth tube. So stay in your lanes, and usually it all turns out for the better.
I think that kind of goes back. Go ahead.
No, go ahead, Jeremy.
I was just going to say it really kind of goes back to, I think, the conversation we had in the episode that you were on is effective versus efficient. You know, okay, you're getting the job done, but are you really getting the job done the best that it could be done? You know, putting the fire out, if that's your goal, that's a very broad spectrum. You know, it'll go out on its own sooner or later.
Yeah.
So you don't really even have to do anything to accomplish that. Are you effectively putting that fire out in the best, most efficient way that can be done? And so, absolutely.
Yeah, it's pretty much when you look at that is I don't think anything we do is rocket science, right? It's just a little bit of thought that goes into it, and I could teach anybody to stretch a hand line, but having that knowledge to look ahead and see, okay, I might have to go around this obstacle, or I might need an extra 50 feet than what I have. That's how you get to that point of being efficient, right? And that's really our ultimate goal with anything. And to piggyback off what Pablo was saying, knowledge without application is theory. We've all heard that before, and that's really what it is not to take anything away from people who are always furthering their education, but until you apply it, you have no idea what really works in the real world. And that's really where we have to be testing these things, especially if we're going to be teaching them. You want to make sure that you're passing on good information and stuff that works and stuff that's practical and gets the job done more efficient than maybe what we were used to before.
Well, guys, I hate to do it because I'm enjoying it thoroughly, but I feel like this is probably a good stop or a good place to stop. So we probably better take advantage of it. Been on about an hour and a half, which, like I said, I could keep going, and I know that there's a lot to keep going on, and I imagine you're feeling the same way, but definitely save some more for the next time because definitely want to have you guys back and dig into this or whatever else in the future for sure.
Absolutely, brother. Man, I appreciate the invite. It's you never take it for granted, man, to have someone just like ask to come on and just speak a little bit of passion and knowledge. Never ever take that for granted. That's humbled and blessed, brother. Thank you. I appreciate the invite. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely, Jeremy.
Before we
I
go,
appreciate it.
go ahead.
No, I was just saying the same thing.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. I keep cutting you off. Go ahead.
No, I was just piggybacking off what Pablo said. Just appreciate the invite and having us on to talk some shop today. And it's always a good time, and things are always learned on both sides. So thank you. I really do appreciate it.
No problem. I have gotten more out of it than I would even have thought. So before we go, like I said, you guys, you run the social platforms of Build Your Culture, but let everybody out there know if they want to get a hold of you, where to get a hold of you, if you got anything coming up that you want to kind of plug, just whatever you guys want to get into before we cut you off.
Yeah, so you can get a hold of me on my personal Facebook page, or go ahead and message the Facebook page, Build Your Culture's Facebook page. You can usually contact me or Pablo on there. One of us are usually on there. The Instagram page we have used to be Central Florida Fire Tactics. We've recently changed it to Build Your Culture. So Pablo's on there a little bit more than I am. So if you need to reach him or myself, he'll make sure I get that message. If it's urgent and you really want to talk about something, just send me a private message and I'll give you my phone number, and we can have that conversation. I just try not to give the phone number out to anybody anymore. Other than that, we do have something coming up. We're going to be in Ohio this coming weekend. I think you're going to be there too, Jeremy, right? Or try to.
In Ohio?
Yeah. Prioritizing the search.
I will not be, no.
Oh, okay. Well, we'll miss you then.
Yeah.
we're gonna be doing that, and then Pablo's gonna be here in Florida doing a search culture class for the Blue Collar Fire Conference, and then in November we got a class with Danny Dwyer and Chief Edwards there in Marion County where Pablo works. It's going to be a symposium about culture in the fire service and decision making in a safety culture, and that's going to be all benefit for our friend Gary Peterson and the foundation that he made. So that's pretty much all I have. I'm going to turn it over to Pablo and let him talk about anything else he wants to.
Yeah, same things. You could get a hold of us, obviously, both through the Build Your Culture Instagram page and Facebook pages. That's the easiest, most direct way. Or through my personal Facebook. It's I share it with my wife, so whoever the hell out there doesn't like it, fuck off. Pablo Jenner and Vanessa Johnson. So just either way, man, just hit me up through there if you need to. I also, I'm also part of the as is Sean, the Marion County Fools. That's our Fools chapter. We do a lot of work there. We're both proud Fools, and what the organization stands for. So you could, if anything, you could message the Marion County Fools. We could get it through there too. For anybody out there in our profession, I'm wearing the shirt here on purpose again. It's Recovery RX. I do work with a group of people started by a gentleman named Chad Belger here that works for the city of Gainesville for mental health crises and addiction, whether it be to alcohol, to drugs, to anything. Health through physical fitness and through friendships or whatever. So Recovery RX is the name of it. So if anybody out there that, just wants to talk or just, wants to figure out a way to, like how to stay sober, by all means, hit us up. It's not an easy path, but it's a pretty cool path. Once you start walking it, it's actually a pretty cool path. And we do a lot of work, obviously, Sean and I, with the Emilio Rivera Foundation. We lost a friend about a year ago, actually, October 22nd will be a year. He was a former Marine and a fireman here in Marion County. And so PTSD is real, and that hit close to home. So his little brother started the Emilio Rivera Foundation, and we do a lot of work with them as far as like charity events and stuff like that. So, we got our hands in quite a few things, but as of right now, I believe that we do it. We have our hearts in the right place, and we do it for the right reasons. And that's, I think that's why we enjoy each other's company, even though we don't see each other that much, Sean and I. But we do it for the right reasons. So if there's anybody that wants any more information about that or any help with anything, man, we're more than willing to extend an olive branch. So hit us up.
Good stuff. Guys, you're doing great things. I mean, obviously all that stuff that you're just talking about right there, it's very much needed, especially in the day and age that we're at right now. It's definitely a topic that needs to be addressed and needs to be people out there supporting others. And so I appreciate that as well. So thank you very much. Thank you for your time, guys. Look forward to more conversations and just getting to know you guys better, and look forward to what's to come. So appreciate it. Hope you have a good day, and we will talk to you later.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate having us on.
Yep. Take care, buddy.
Thank you once again for spending some time with us today. I really appreciate you tuning in. I hope that you enjoyed the show and gained a little knowledge, a little growth, grabbed a few takeaways, and hopefully it'll carry you into the rest of the week, and look forward to seeing you again. Wanted to take a short amount of time to thank my podcast sponsor, Woods Forcible Entry Door Kit. It's a great product. I love it. I own one myself. We use it all the time at the firehouse that I'm at, and just really love it. great tool for training, great tool for exercise and working out. And I've said it before, this is a group of guys that are doing great things for the fire service, and just a good, solid group of guys. So I'm very appreciative for being a part of that team. So thank you to them. Please go check them out. And as always, if you don't mind, share, like, subscribe, download, whatever it is on whatever platform that you're listening to. If you enjoy what you're hearing and appreciate the content and the guests, I would really appreciate taking a little bit of time and doing that for me. Just to kind of helps the visibility of the show, and just helps me, to be honest, know that I'm doing the right thing and headed the right direction. So thank you very much for everything you do and sharing the show and just helping me get my message out. So thank you. Hope you have a great week. Look forward to having you on back again. And until then, stay safe. Take care of each other.